Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about episode 6 of Apple TV's Presumed Innocent, entitled The Elements. Well, finally trial time. I suspect we'd be spending the bulk of these final 3 episodes at the trial, and if the final 2 play out like this one did, we should be in for a pretty good closure to the season. I love the story that this episode told, the story of Raymond's age and experience, triumphing over Tommy's youthful aggression and stubbornness in the courtroom, but then at the same time, at what cost, right? Ironically, Raymond's age and experience also work against him here, as all of the stress tied to this case manifests itself physically at the worst possible time. This is more than just a regular case for him, though, right? Rusty is his friend, his colleague, and every episode, Rusty gives him more and more reason to believe he did this crime. But in a way, Raymond's on trial too, though. You'd have to question your own judgment, right? Particularly as an attorney, if you can have someone capable of this kind of behavior who's this close to you, as close to him as Rusty was. And then this episode just had some really engaging scenes. Tommy questioning the medical examiner, Raymond questioning the forensics guy, a pair of great scenes between Rusty and his daughter, Barbara looking at one of her classic drawings of Charles S. Dutton. So yeah, there's lots to discuss. So let's get into what worked and why. Hey everybody, I just want to take a small break from this review to talk about the various other ways you can engage with me on other platforms. If you're so inclined, and I understand why you wouldn't, I am an acquired taste, but you can join the Patreon where you can get extra content like retro reviews, where I review old shows and movies to see if they still hold up today, Mike's Musings, where I talk about shows I'm watching that I don't cover on the channel, or Mike's VOD, where you can commission me to watch a show, which I will then review on the channel. And if you want to engage with me and chat with me more directly, I also implore you to join the Discord and follow the Facebook page. I set up channels in the Discord for all of us to discuss the shows I'm reviewing on the channel, and I also drop new videos in there since it's the easiest platform for me to share to from my phone. The Facebook can be really fun because I sort of live comment on shows I'm watching, often while under the influence, I'm not going to lie. And I'll also share news there, both about television and film, and about myself as well. So if you like my content, you want to be more engaged, you think I'm charming, or you simply want to show support, feel free to sign up for the Patreon or join the Discord or Facebook today. Links to all platforms are in every video description. Remember to share all my shit to your respective social media platforms. And now back to this review. So I talked at the top about how great of a job this episode did at telling the story of Raymond's age and experience, and you see it right away at the start of the episode. When the trial starts, we see Tommy questioning the medical examiner. We've seen him going back and forth with this guy all season. I even said in one of my videos, like, what's going on between these two? And it's brutal stuff, like the stuff that the medical examiner testifies to. He talks about, like, brain leaking through skull cracks and shit like that. He speaks very, very coldly and very plainly about some pretty horrific details regarding how Carolyn died. Really early on, Tommy starts to take it too far. Well, at least too far in my opinion. I don't know if that's what the show was going for, but in my opinion, I felt like Tommy was already doing a lot. So he tries to press this point that Carolyn suffered when everything the medical examiner had already detailed was gruesome enough. Like and Nico says this, like, we got what we needed. Like he already, like, and Nico's we got what we needed was far beyond where even I thought they got what they needed. Like the details were so bad, and they made Rusty look so bad as someone who might have done something like that, that I don't feel like Tommy needed to kind of like press the did she suffer point. But Tommy asked the medical examiner if Carolyn suffered, and he's like, I couldn't possibly know that. And Tommy's like, well, can you rule it out? It's like, well, no, obviously I can't rule it out. And it's like, that just seemed a lot to me. And I feel like that was just kind of like the tip of the iceberg of Tommy taking shit too far. The medical examiner even revealed to the jury that Carolyn was 6 weeks pregnant by Rusty at the time of her death. And for a second, you're just like, man, this looks really bad for Rusty. But then Raymond, man, what I loved about Raymond here, Raymond couldn't even be bothered to get out of his chair. He's just like, yeah, all that shit you described, all that terrible shit, you got anything regarding evidence on who might have actually done it? No? All right, well, what about a murder weapon? No? You ain't got that neither? No further questions. Like, he didn't even bother to get out of his seat. And that's the age and experience. Like, yeah, tell the jury all that emotionally manipulative shit, but I'm going to bring it right back to the facts while my ass stays hot and warm in my chair. And then in contrast, You've got Tommy, who when asked if he has anything else, and Nico tells him to drop it because they already got what they need, his youthful arrogance. When I say youthful, I don't mean that Tommy's young, but I mean like youthful inexperience within the lawyer game. But his youthful arrogance, it takes over, and he presses the medical examiner about Rusty's behavior when Rusty came to see Carolyn's body. And again, this seems bad for Rusty in the moment. Tommy seems proud about pressing this point. The medical examiner is like, yeah, he seemed really off. And then Raymond easily dispatches the medical examiner again by showing that his opinion on Rusty's demeanor can't be trusted because he has a bias against attorneys. And it's great lawyer work by Raymond, but also great work by the show to have him just be so like this. But we're not even to the point where I need to get out of my seat yet. Like y'all haven't even begun to test me, and I love that about Raymond in these scenes. And like Nico says, that was a net fucking loss for them. And it was because Tommy's so blindly and stubbornly ambitious, and Raymond is just a seasoned veteran, cool as a cucumber. At least he was at that time. That changed dramatically later. But I loved how at no point in this scene did he even bother to stand, which of course Tommy did, and it was like it wasn't even worth Raymond's time to get up. Until he questioned the forensics guy. And you guys know, I talk about when shows do the small things. Raymond and the show, through Raymond, set up the forensics guy as being much tougher to handle than the medical examiner. And then he sits up for the medical examiner, but he gets up for the forensics guy. So I like that. Comparison. Like, oh, this guy's not worth my time. Hey, but this forensics guy is going to be a problem. And immediately he's up out of his chair. Says a lot about body language. It says a lot with body language and with movement that you don't necessarily need to have said by, verbally. So the forensics guy, after laying out all the facts, essentially says that he believes the crime was committed in passion, but then there was a careful and methodical cleanup. He says he's never seen such a bloody crime, but clean from an evidence standpoint, which I thought was an interesting little piece of information as well. Raymond then makes the point that I made last week that, what difference do the skin cells under the nails make if we're not denying that the two had a physical relationship? Like, I took it a step farther last week saying like, okay, well, they could just say that they were fucking and that's just how they get down. But he does even better than that. He doesn't even take it that far. He's just like, yo, you could get cells underneath your skin just from scratching your face. So like, he even points out the fact that the same bit of evidence, the cells under the nails, were painted by one side as being evidence of a murder, but then by him just now as evidence of a kiss. And again, just great work by Raymond and great work by the episode and by the show, showing us how great Raymond is and how Tommy's ambition is getting in his way. But as the episode comes to a close, Tommy's questioning Carolyn's mystery son, Michael, and this kid's all like, yeah, I believe Rusty did it, and everything I've seen or heard is only meant to confirm what I already believe, which is that Rusty did it. And just as you know, Raymond's about to pick this kid apart, especially because they had just broached the topic of Carolyn being scared of Rusty, but Eugenia had earlier testified that it was Tommy, so you know Raymond's about to get up and cut this kid to pieces, and then he has, presumably, a heart attack. And at worst, he dies. At best, he's no longer able to be Rusty's lawyer. Either way, it's a terrible, terrible outcome for Rusty. And if Maya is left as his only lawyer, what if they end up in a situation where now it's just like, okay, Rusty, you have to testify. And all this episode did was further advance the idea that this guy does not need to be on the witness stand. So I'm looking forward to circumstances that are going to put Rusty on the stand, because we know that's going to be explosive. So this episode did a great job of advancing what it set up while giving me really no more clues as to what happened. Like, I still don't feel like I have a better idea of who might have committed this crime. And also, it packed quite an emotional roller coaster into another well-paced episode with a fitting duration of about 40 minutes. I really like the structure of 35 to 40 minutes per episode. You're only putting in the shit that matters, and then you're out of there until next week. They're pacing this show really, really well. I get very counter to what Alan Sepinwall said. I keep bringing that up. How the fuck did he say it was elongated and a snooze fest? I have no idea. Anyway, moving on. Like I said a moment ago, Eugenia testifies as well, and she talks about walking in on Rusty and Carolyn kissing, as well as having seen them argue in the parking lot. Maya asked her if Carolyn ever filed a complaint with HR about Rusty, and then she's like, no. And then she's like, well, she filed a complaint about anybody? And that's when it's revealed to everyone in the courtroom that Carolyn filed a complaint against Tommy because because he gave her ick. I really love that moment. It seemed like Raymond was about to present this information to Michael and discredit him right before his, I'm assuming, heart attack. So it'll be interesting to see how Michael's cross-examination is handled next week, assuming it still happens. But it's just as easily Maya could bring the same point. Can Maya bring that same point? Yeah, because Eugenia revealed it in front of everybody. So doing a bit of a compliment sandwich here before I close by talking about a couple of other things that I thought this episode did well. I wish this episode had done a little bit more to explain Raymond's pivot toward introducing Liam Reynolds as a suspect. Like, he's been adamant that that's not the way to go this whole time. Now, I suspect he did it because he might now be questioning Rusty's innocence even more so than he was at the beginning of the season. But in the moment, that felt very out of the blue to me, and the judge was immediately like, what the fuck is this shit? So it just felt like a very strange and random pivot in the moment, especially when it felt like we were about to transition into Raymond cutting somebody up again. So moving on, I want to close by talking about the two women in Rusty's life, his wife and his daughter. Barbara tells him about Cliff in this episode, and like Rusty, I also wonder about the timing. Those shots they gave of her just sitting poolside looking contemplative, they were pretty ominous. But how about how Rusty handled it? Like flipping it onto her, talking about you grind me, as if she grinds him about taking out the trash and not about cheating on his wife and then impregnating and possibly killing his side chick. Like, no, you grind me. You're like it's unfair to be bothered by that. And then he's all like, how's it feel to make a mistake? Again, as if her kissing Cliff is the same type of mistake as him cheating on his wife and then impregnating and possibly killing his side chick. So, incredible male toxicity from Rusty here. Then to top it all off, she's like, fuck you, I'm out of here. Tries to walk past him, and this man grabs her with all the strength and protruding veins of someone trying to lift Thor's hammer, and he's like, fuck me? Man. Oh boy, that every episode Rusty looks worse. I love how every episode I'm now more and more convinced. I'm just like, maybe Rusty did it. I don't know why I dismissed the Occam's razor answer here. But lastly, Rusty only gets 2 scenes with his daughter, and she's been less of a focus this season than the son. But I like what they did with these 2 scenes quite a bit. So in the first scene, she asked him if he ever disassociates. And that has to be like a knife in the heart for him, because that question essentially just relays that she's starting to believe that he might not have done it. He might have done it, and that he doesn't remember. And then later, after the whole Barbara arm grabbing situation, Barbara goes to visit Lorraine, that's Raymond's wife, instead of going to the trial. And for a brief moment, it looks and feels to both us, the viewer, and Rusty, that everybody in his family has left his side. She leaves, the kids leave, he's standing there in the kitchen alone with a coffee mug. His daughter believes he may have disassociated. His wife, who is up to now has been his longest supporter, she isn't coming to support him because he tried to rip her arm off like he's fucking Sasquatch or some shit. But then the daughter returns, and she hugs him, and she apologized for the disassociation question. Good Lord. And I just thought that was a really sweet scene to show that not everyone has abandoned Rusty yet. Even though Raymond would rather die than continue to defend him. So on that note, let me know what you thought in the comments, and until next week, peace.